Okay, welcome to today's episode. We have Mike Torchia, professional bodybuilder, trainer to the stars, actor, producer, and all-time good friend of mine. Welcome on the show, Mike.
Thank you, James.
I appreciate it.
being here, man.
Yeah,
Great
we're
to have
looking
you.
forward to it. It's been a long time coming, and we're trying to get.
Yeah, well, we had a great time on my podcast.
Yes.
So,
That was an awesome talk.
So, Mike, take us back to the start. So, you grew up on the East Coast.
yeah, White Plains, New York.
How did it all come about that you started bodybuilding at a very young age? Take us through that.
Well, when I was 14 years old, the school nurse had said to me, your mom needs to come in and your dad both have to come in. And I go, well, it's going to be hard to get my dad because he barely speaks English and he's a laborer. But I'm sure I can get my mom to come in. She goes, okay. So the next day, my mom comes in with me. And the nurse says, Mrs. Torchia, your son is 50 pounds overweight. He's 4'8", 14 years old. And if he doesn't get in physical condition, because I spoke to the PE teacher, he's not doing well in class. He's skipping the exercises. Yeah, it was so funny was the coach, I didn't know the coach knew this, but when in school, you're running around the track. So what I would do is I'd run around and slide under the bleachers and hide there. And then when it's the last lap, I'd sit up and whatever. So I was doing it for a long time. So the coach goes, he's barely running around. He once around the track, hides under the bleachers. When he's doing push-ups, the weights of the PE teacher is not looking, and I just count like I'm doing it. So I was cheating myself. And then he goes in the cafeteria and he overeats, all kinds of sweets. And my mom goes, okay, I know what to do. So my mom goes, let's go. So she grabs my hand. And this is the first time I ever felt my mother trembling. My hands were like really clammy, sweaty because she was nervous. And this is the alpha woman, right? So we drive home and I go, what am I going to do? She says, I know what to do. So we go home. She says, come here, let's go to the living room. She turns on the TV, changes the channel, and there's Jack and Lane. And that changed the course of my life. Because then my mother said, I'm chubby, you're chubby, let's do it together. So I lost a lot of weight, and then I started feeling like weak. And my mom goes, well, maybe you got to do some more weights or something. We were just doing calisthenics. So one day I saw this flyer at school. It was for the YMCA and had a bodybuilding program. So I said to my mom, I said, hey, just look at the build on these guys. I'd like to get a body like that, right? And at the time, I was just really girl crazy, too. So I wanted to be chopped. So my goal was getting in shape now because I want to find a girl.
That's summer body.
So I go to the YMCA, you go there, and the guy at the desk goes, well, it's $40 for the year. You have to pay in full. So my mom goes, you know what? I took the shoebox out of my closet. I was saving for a pair of new shoes, and I kept putting it in the box. So she goes, I got $40, so you're more important than my shoes. So she, buys a membership, and then she goes, okay, go work out, have a good time. I'm going to go to the Grand Union, which is like Ralph's out here, right? It's a market. I'll go back in an hour. I said, okay. So I go down. It's like a dungeon. I go down these stairs, and it's all massive guys, no women in there. And the light bulbs had like wire, and it was a bulb that's hanging there. Very like primitive. And I see this guy in these massive arms. I go, excuse me, sir, is that a good exercise for barber girls to build big muscles? And he goes, just see a busy kid beat it. And he just ignored me. So then I sit at the bench and my head's down. I go, oh shit. And my mom is going, $40. What am I going to do? And all of a sudden I look up and there's this huge guy. He goes, hey kid, want to build big muscles? I said, yeah. He goes, get with that guy. I'll show you. So he put me through this whole workout. It was incredible. I felt what a pump was the first time. And he goes, okay, but now you're going to come back. Come back on Wednesday. And next time when you come back, we're going to talk about nutrition. Because he poked me in the stomach. He says, you're a human garbage bill. You are what you eat. And that was his primitive way of teaching me about proper nutrition. So I started going there and training. But he said to me the first day he met me, he goes, you have the kind of structure, you eat right, plenty of rest, and you train hard. You one day will be a champion bodybuilder. I can see. And his name is Frank. It was Frank himself. And sure enough, he encouraged me to go into the show. First show I went in, I placed fifth. So Mr. Wagner. And then progressively I started winning. So I won Teenage Mr. America eventually. And all these other titles, Mr. Collegiate USA and Mr. North America. I went through so many championships that I actually won. But I became that champion because he inspired me. So a little bit of courage went the wrong way and encouragement. He gave me the courage to have self confidence. And I was a very introverted guy. I was very shy. Then I became more outgoing. So my mind emotionally, I grew. And that's why today I'm trying to do something with Bobby Kennedy, the program with the President's Council, because we need to have teachers that are qualified. Did you know in Japan and Asia, you actually have to have a license and a master's degree to teach physical education? United States, you can be a history teacher, you can be a math teacher, science teacher. As long as you are a body, they'll put you in that position. So you could be in a class, your children could be in a class where a teacher has nothing about nutrition, kinesiology, biomechanics of body, nothing, except for they're just showing up to make sure the kids don't get hurt. So it's more like babysitting. So I'm pushing with Bobby that we have to have qualifications to be a PE teacher. Look what's going on in other countries today. But that's how I evolved as far as a bodybuilder. But, I really want people to understand that you have to have, parents have to focus and pay attention to the kids. Because what's happening today, with all the horrible shootings and all these violent things happening in schools, is kids are not being disciplined. Parents are not paying attention to their children, how they're acting.
Here's their parent.
The phone, right?
Right here.
And we need to pay attention to our children. My mother and father paid attention.
Yeah. Well, you telling the story that I thought that was amazing. Your mom did that. Not many mothers, maybe fathers might do that, but not many mothers would do that. I think that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, and I gotta say, my mother really didn't know anything about nutrition and nothing about fitness, but when she'd make a meal, okay, we're gonna have a nice salad. We're gonna have a nice piece of some kind of fish, chicken, beef. We're gonna have something like baked potato, rice, and pasta, and then green vegetables. So she was always
It's a perfect meal.
balancing it out.
Yeah.
And she had a degree in nutrition. And when I trained, my body just morphed, and I started like really developing. And that's when I started like realizing, wow, I love this. And to this day, I still train at 69.
Now, is that guy still alive? The guy that inspired
You know what? I got to reach out. A few years back, he was, and I reached out to him. I'd love to see him now because he was just an inspiration. But we are the sum of all the people we need.
100.
I just know that I never regret a thing because it's made who I am today.
Even
And I have to make my mistakes to learn to be a better man, right? And I think kids like Sly, even Smith still was. He was bullied. His legs were bowed. He had to have special braces. He had the speech impediment, but he thanks being bullied because it made him go into overdrive to make himself better.
Mike Tyson was bullied. He used to hide between the buildings to avoid being beat up by the bullies.
Yeah.
We know.
It's just nature.
So did you go to school afterwards and get a degree in kinesiology?
So what I did was then I went to college, and then I took my major was film communications, and I took all these classes in kinesiology, and biomechanics of the body, advanced nutrition.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to be a PE teacher, so I was learning and I was really drilling the professors about protein. And years ago, they had liquid protein. It was like a big thing. And I said to the teacher, I said, if someone's just taking a liquid protein and you're not taking anything with electrolytes and minerals and other things, couldn't that cause you to have a stroke or heart attack? Because then all the fluid's going to be released out of the body. And he said, Mr. Torchia, you're right. And it's very dangerous. People dropping lots of weight because all they were doing was having liquid protein 3 times a day. Mm-hmm. About 3 months later, people were having heart attacks because of electrolytes. as we're off.
It's depleted.
Depleted that. And so I started being more intrigued and asking my professors these really detailed questions. How the body works, understanding it, and the system, hormones, thyroid. So I really started getting more into that. So when it came to peaking for a show, the reason why I won isn't because I had the best body on the stage. I had the best body on the stage that day because I knew how to peak. I was like, they called me the human anatomy chump. They called me when I won the Teenage America, the teenage phenomenon. When I won the Teenage Miss America, Arthur Jones, who created Nautilus Equipment, invited me to train with Casey Viator, who was the youngest Mr. America in this universe, at his Dealan Fitness Institute. And when I got there, he just pinched my skin. He goes, I've never seen a human with such low body fat. So he had me go into the hydrostatic tank, just right after I won the Teenage Miss America. My body fat was 1.2.
Wow.
Which is unheard of.
Yeah. Especially in a hydrostatic chamber.
He said, the only fat you have is the fat with me between your organs.
Your visceral fat.
Yeah, you cannot survive more than 2 to 3 weeks. You will die. But because when I studied in college, and I really went to any kind of workshops, seminars, or to learn about nutrition, how the body works, and metabolism, I was a king at peaking. Now, if you look at all these shows, just like tennis players, 1 minute it was Federer, then there's Nadal, and there's this one and that one, because they were off, right? So think of it if there was a tennis player that always was on peak performance, and nothing that was going on in life that would always peak. I was that guy. I'd walk on stage, and in those days, they had individual body parts. So every time I competed, I won best legs, best back, best chest, best arms, best abs, best pose. Because I was a complete so I was a complete body. So I went there and I had the most perfect symmetry, 28-inch waist, 58-inch chest. The arms were just a little bit over 20 inches. Calves were 20 inches. So it was like Steve Reeves, perfect, right? But I was the most graceful poser. I mean, Ed Cordy taught me how to pose. Just so
Ed was so amazing.
Just so artful, right? Because that in itself, like even when we go through the transitions, Ed taught me when you're going quarter turn to the right, make that a pose. Quarter turn to the right, pose. So everything you do with your hands. So it's not just like turn to the side, right? So everything was so graceful. Even I would have 2 different style color trunks for prejudging the night show because they do the final numbers, most of it in prejudging night show. But then I had the most magnificent pose routine, and I had a friend of mine that was a DJ, so the music was
You worked together on it.
kill, right? Tiny, perfect. So when I'm up there, they go, well, the other guy's a bit bigger, but
you had the finesse.
Look at the vascularity. Yeah. Look at him. He's just perfect posture. So everything was just right. So I took it as an art form, which it is. Now today, I recently saw over the last weekend, the Mr. Bennett. I mean, the 40-inch waist. I mean, the bloat. When I used to do most muscular, even when Arnold and Franco were the other guys, you could see the dense ripples of the striations. Skin was paper thin. It's just bumbling, like inflamed.
Now, do you think that classic bodybuilding at some point in the IFBB is gonna outshine
100%? The classic bodybuilders look so much better.
Absolutely.
So why do you think the guys today are as big as they are? Because they're going primarily for
because they're all focused on who's the biggest, who's the beast.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how they look.
Now, where did that change? With the Lee Haney or the Ronnie Coleman era?
It happened around Ronnie Coleman, Jay Cutler. It was just mass monsters. When Sean Ray, Kevin LaRone, Flex Wheeler,
all on stage together.
Yeah. They were pieces of art that came
Yeah.
alive.
Yeah.
Beautiful tapered waist. But then Ronnie and then Jay, it all Phil Heath, all these guys, it now became mass monsters. Guys wanted to be bigger. They're taking growth hormone, they're taking insulin, they're taking tren, they're taking all these drugs that actually the growth hormone will grow the organs. That's why the gut is extending because everything is growing eternally, right? Then the waist grow up and the hips are widening. But even though they're so big, if you look at it, they don't have that
They don't have that V tape.
Yeah,
Yeah.
have the
Like Sean Ray had a magnificent physique.
Oh yeah.
Kevin Monroe is
Flex Wheeler.
flex. I mean, perfection.
Yeah.
But that's because we kept it as art. Now it's a chemical warfare.
Do you think that maybe it was due in part that they were trying to get it to be more of a mainstream sport and get it out to society a little bit more? And society's way of seeing it was, I have to see some mass monsters, and then that's they saw some peak there.
Well, see,
You think that's what it was?
The Wrestling Federation, McMahon's Federation, created the WBF, the World Bodybuilding Federation, and then Barry Stryden and all those guys.
Lee Priest went over to that.
Oh, they all went over there, and when they did that, Lita goes, "You'll never place high if you want to come back, right?" So of course they did that, but then when
Now, did he mean you'll never play a side when you come back
if you come back, you will come back
because the standard here is different, or
no,
because
because
I'm
happy
you
with
move federation,
Yeah, politically.
politically.
Yeah.
And that's the way Joe was. So then all those guys, Aaron Baker, Gary Strainham, and like all these guys that went and competed in that federation never placed in the top 10 and when they went back. And also what they did was he wanted to do this amazing show. So he put on a pro show where all the bodybuilders were drug tested. It was the lowest attendance level of any bodybuilding show ever. The bodybuilders just look soft, small, and he then just dissolved the WPF.
Are you talking about the 90s when all the bodybuilders all of a sudden became just kind of like looked like soft, big kind of fat guys?
Yeah, kind of kind of almost chubby because they went off all the shit. The body now has to have these drugs, otherwise you can't respond. So he became dependent on it. So when he saw that the shows, they had a few of those shows that were drug tested, they came there to see freaks or see amazing physiques. And they just saw a bunch of guys that were kind of soft and bloated. And so he just dissolved that federation. And then the guys came running back and we were going. And even though they looked so great, they could never break the top 10. And then again, with Joe controlled everything. Now, Mike Mentzer, who I've trained with many years, it's rather rare when you're alive, we trained for many of his shows. And now Mike was the only bodybuilder that won the Mr. Universe with perfect score of 300. That's never happened. That's perfection. And then when Mike was in Australia and Arnold had come back, it was actually, I'd say, Mike Mentzer and Tom Platz.
Tom looked amazing.
Looked much better.
Tom looked good.
Much better than Arnold. It was very close.
I really wish Tom would have been able to nail down an Olympia.
But here's the thing is, the promoter running it was Arnold's business partner. They had partnerships together. Also, there were a few pro bodybuilders that were very close with Arnold. So even though Arnold didn't look as good as he's looked before, he looked what he considered good enough.
Yeah, he still looked pretty damn good.
He did look good, but Mike and Tom Platz were the finest condition.
Tom looked. I can argue. Besides him losing to Franco, I believe it was the next year. I think Tom. He looked amazing in that show.
Yeah, he did. So I was at training Tom. He trained. He was probably one of the hardest training bodybuilders in the gym. Incredibly heavy weights. Problem was, I was warned if he was doing chest flies, and then he'd bring it down and do this thing. And that's when he tore his bicep doing chest flies because he would bounce like because he used to do this bouncing like tripped and it just rolled up. Oh fuck! And then screws off.
So let's just back up a bit, Mike, now to you. So you win various competitions on the East Coast. So when do you end up here? Like, on what? Did you come out here to compete or like what? So you're on the East Coast, you're winning. So when do you decide, I'm going to go to California, I'm going to base myself there?
So I came out here in 1970. I was 15 years old, right? I saved up money, mowing lawns, cutting hedges, odd jobs, and I got a ticket to come to California to meet Arnold Schwarzenegger. So I was able to get on the flight. My parents allowed me to go, had the note that the kid can go on the plane, and arranged to get a motel right down the road from the Gold's Gym, the original Gold's
The
Gym.
one that was
on Ocean.
On Ocean.
And so I not knowing anybody, and I only had like a couple $100 in a suitcase.
Now, just to refresh, this is like the golden era.
Yeah, because Gold's Gym started in 1965. So when I got there in 1970, this was the original guys. So Michael Hearn might say, Mike Ryan, all these guys might say they're here from the beginning. I was here.
If they were here from the beginning, they'd all be 80 years old.
Yeah, right. So
Who was all in that? Walk me through. He walked in and goes, who's all in that?
I mean, I was training with Dave Draper. I was training with Sergio Lima. I was, like I mentioned, the Messer brothers, Arnold.
Ken
Franco.
Waller was running
Ken
the gym.
Waller. He was my buddy. He was maniac.
Sergio Oliva.
Sergio Lima. Oh, yeah. He was so, that man, he was, not tall.
Yeah.
But man, his forearm started from here. His calves were just.
Now just take us back to that Gold's Gym. You walk in, and by today's standards, that'd be, while in my estimation, just as effective then as anything is now.
Absolutely.
But it was pretty primitive. It was a small place, wasn't it?
Yeah, but see, Joe Gold, who was a dear friend of mine, God bless his soul, he was an architect and a welder. So the equipment that he built were at unique angles. Most incline benches are too high. So you're not really getting upper back, you're getting more front depth.
Shoulder. Yeah.
That's why I do the adjustable lower. The lower incline is better because you're really thick in the pec. The way you do all this front depth.
Is that why Arnold would kind of scoot his ass down low and so he'd be a little less inclined?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's why, we would train certain ways. Now, when I would train with Vince Ferragno, Vince was a genius trainer.
Now, he was another gym, the other part of town in Studio City.
But that's where all the old time, actors, Clint Eastwood trained with him.
Are we talking about Geronimo?
Geronimo.
That was in the Valley, though, correct?
That was in the Valley.
Yes.
And all his equipment was made by him. He had this half moon pullover bench for skull crushers and pullovers.
That's awesome.
And you really would open up the rib cage because those days you wanted that vacuum, be able to open the rib cage up. And so, but he would pick, 3 exercises and do 8 sets each, 8 reps. And the pulleys were rope. It was really smooth. Everything is built by him.
Yeah.
The leg extension he built. I mean, everything was amazing.
You think any of this equipment still exists today? You think?
Yeah, actually, people bought it and they made it into a museum bits of stuff. A guy I think in New Jersey has it like a museum.
That's awesome.
They actually had a piece of the old seated pulley rope from the old Gold's Gym in the current one for many years inside the door. Remember that show?
They started getting rid of
So someone told me all that stuff from the old Gold's Gym on Ocean sits in the storage.
It probably could, and it's a shame because the equipment was so well designed. Because Joe Gold was an engineer and the angles, right? So, and then of course, Joe, Ken Springwood comes and it's his gym. And then Joe opened the World's Gym and Arnold financed it down the road.
But now you're jumping a little bit forward, right? That's more the late 70s, right?
Right.
So go back to the start. You end up in Gold's Gym on Ocean. And so what's it like going in there for the first time?
It was one big room.
Was it about this size?
It was about, I'd say, 2,000 square feet.
No, about this size.
Yeah. But all right?
Yeah.
Like if you took that wall out, So you go in there and you'd see Arnold squatting with Franco, or Ed Corney squatting with Waller, whatever it is. Then you'd see, you'd see some of the old Bill Pettis, which was like the first guy that had like 21-inch arms. He'd be throwing these 100-pound dumbbells to girls. And you would just see all these other bodybuilders that were known, training Bob Birdsong, Ken Keane, you see all these guys training. And you're like, I felt like I was in a comic book. my hero.
So what did you see Arnold for the first time? When you walked over and said, "Hey, how's it going?" Or like how?
Yeah. So I said I got up in the morning like 8 o'clock, and I got to the gym, and I said I wanted to meet Arnold Schwarzenegger. And at the time, Roger Cowley was running the gym, and he goes, "Oh, he's God. He comes real early in the morning, like 5:30, 4 to 6." So I said, "Oh, okay." And so then he said, "But yeah, come back tomorrow morning early." And so sure enough, I came back the next day, and Arnold was in the gym working out, and I went up to him, and I said, "Hi, my name's Mike Torchia from New York." And so that I've been reading all your articles, and I really want to be a bodybuilder like you. And he goes, "Okay, Luke Kroger." He called me Luke Kroger. "Come on." And we're going to do chess. And so I did chess. First time I met him with him and Franco.
You're kidding me.
And I felt bad because they had to keep, Franco was putting all these plates and then take it off, put like a quarter on each side because I wasn't that strong.
That's fucking
And,
awesome.
and Arnold made me feel like I was equal. They took me under their wing. So as time progressed, they sit me down. Like we went to this restaurant called the Germans, right by one of the Venice post offices. So, and in there for like, I think it was like $4, $3, $4. You can get a half a pound of ground beef burger, a cup of cottage cheese, and that's all we ate. It was ground meat and cottage cheese, but you had good carbs, calcium, high protein, and it was like $3, $4, right? And so then we would go walk down the Muscle Beach and lay out, right? And then we would like lay out and just get some rays. Then we'd go back to the gym and like have a protein shake, right? And about 20 minutes later, we do our second half because we train twice. So it was like 2.5 hours in the morning and 2.5 hours in the afternoon. And so all we did was train, eat, lay out, train, right? And that's my life. I was like programmed. So every year I went, it was my summer trip, was to train at Gold's Gym, to train with Arnold, Franco, whoever was there. And I got to meet all the top bodybuilders from around the world, the most incredible bodybuilders. So I had the privilege to work with them. But as I would come out, then they'd go, "Mike, we saw you in the magazines. Good job." So, and then of course it became Joe Weider. One year flew me out when I sat in his office, and he just said, "Mike, you have magnificent physique. You could go to the top. You'll never be Mr. Olympia, but Mr. America, maybe Mr. World. But you got to stop blowing up. You guys in the East Coast, you just get all bulked up. Then you like lay down, sacrifice all this great size. Did you know a concert pianist plays 14, 16 hours a day, minimum 12 hours, year round? You're a bodybuilder that just trains 3 months out of the year for a show. You need to train and diet. Stop putting on extra weight because if you keep a seasoned body and keep your body weight no more than 10 pounds above competition weight, you'll have a defined, rock hard, dense body. But you can't keep going up and down because you sacrifice size, right? And so he drilled that into my head. And to this day, I always stay within a certain weight and look the way I do because he drilled that in my brain. You're a bodybuilder. This is what you're committed. You're competing on stage or not. You need to maintain your physique. And then when I used to do commercials and stuff like that, when a photographer would call up or they had an audition, I was ready to go. All the other bodybuilders weren't getting the jobs because they were bloated. Yeah. They were just picking out because they wanted to get bigger. I figured, hey, I can make money and feel better and be healthier. So Joe Weider was brilliant. Ben Weider was a very dear friend. And the very first year when bodybuilding was going to be a demo sport in the Olympics, I got a letter from Ben and said, "Congratulations, Mr. Torchia, you've been selected to be in the pilot program at the Olympics." And I'm standing in my town. I was like, I'm going to the Olympics. And whatever. But then what happened was they started looking at the books, which talked about how the scoring is done. But he didn't explain to me it was still being reviewed, but he thought it was going to go through. I prepared for the Olympics, much all these other bodybuilders do. But then I got noticed. Unfortunately, decided that from reading the books that really analyze how winners are chosen, that is too subjective.
And it
And
is.
that a judge might like your body because he's more of a lean or rip, or the judge might like you because they're more of a bigger endomorph or whatever. So it failed. Then they tried to do it again. But I felt privileged that Ben and Joe wanted me because they said that I was a great representative of sports bar.
That's a big compliment.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, because they knew that I was that perfectionist, that I knew that I was a piece of art that would come alive, that I used the equipment in the gym as the tools to sculpt my body, that all year round I stayed in shape. That's who America's got to see bodybuilding is all about. These fit, good looking, well mannered, really complete packages there because they said you are what we want for our sport. Now today, if they were alive, they'd be appalled by the way the bodybuilders look in competition. They're just drug addicts, popping themselves up with so much drugs. And
people are dying left and right.
they are usually things like when I used to come to the gym, they always did the brotherly thing, Like Franco was like Arnold, right? To hug him. I remember when like rich man, I gave him a hug and it was like double. Because they're putting all these drugs to inflame the muscles. So it's doughy. Like you hug my body. I'm solid.
Yeah.
And so
It's dense.
these bodybuilders, like, all these big cutlers, like a pudgy, bloated, soft. Even now, he tries to stay in shape, but you can see it's just bloated. And I go, that's not attractive. And most of them, that's not healthy. But the old school bodybuilders, the world that I was in, we are rock hard and always within a reasonable amount of weight, never going too wild with weight gain. And also, when we used to trade at goals, we used to walk down the block and go to a local restaurant. Later on, it was like Rose Cafe and also Firehouse. And everybody would go together. The group was, we'd go over there and be eating, breakfast, lunch, or whatever. Then all of a sudden, it'd be like, years later, the new generation. I go, hey man, what are you on IT Firehouse? Oh, no, I got shit to do. And I just like go to change. I go down, walk down to the Firehouse, and they're in the corner by themselves. I go, what happened to these bodybuilders?
Camaraderie.
I love that brotherhood.
Because everybody's competing now.
Right,
everybody was lifting each other up back then.
Yeah, exactly. Encourage everybody. And and when I would be in the gym and I see younger people, I encourage them. I support them. And when I would go to the gym, I'd see a pro, and I look at them and go, "You want to work out? Let's go."
Yeah.
Today, it's like I go over to someone and I go, "Can I work?" No, I got 3 sets. I go, "Well, you got to rest. So can you get off the machine and do this over there?"
I was going to say they're sitting on their phone.
And so eventually, I kind of got it down to I come up to them and say, "I'm going to jump in."
Yeah.
And I get close to the face with it. Martial arts, when somebody gets into your space, and they always get up off the machine. And I don't want to get into confrontation, but I now have the system down because if they think they can get away with it,
they'll sit there all day
and sit there and I don't understand. It's like at the point where like, what are they doing when they're tying up the equipment? And quite frankly, I feel terrible sitting there.
They should have to check their phones in.
Well, the interesting,
check the fucking
where
phone.
you and I used to work out a few years ago, that's just up the road here. It was a summer school for kids on phones.
Oh yeah, it was terrible. What's so funny? Funny story. So James and I always we were like 2 bulls. I mean, tricep maxing the push downs and the putting plates on top of it, right? So there was one day we were really pumping our biceps, right? Mel Gibson right over there, he was just doing some movement. And so James and I we worked up to doing concentration curls with 80-pound dumbbells.
Yeah.
Remember that? Yeah. And then James goes, "Hey, man, you want to work there?" Right? He's like, "No, man, I don't want to tear my biceps." He just looked at us like he was getting scared just seeing how we were really going heavy. Most people can't do concentration curls with 80-pound dumbbells.
No.
We'd start
less than 1% of the population.
We would start 30 to warm up, and then jump to 40, 50, 60, and then he did 70. You go, come on, James, to the 80s. I love you. You never should know.
Yeah.
And he did it, and really great for him. Man, it was fun. Some of the workouts we did were so much fun.
I mean, working out with my best buddy back home is literally, bar none, my favorite thing to do on the planet. Like, we talk about it all the time. It's like, man, because I live 2,000 miles away. And it's like, wouldn't you just know right now, me be able to, dude, I'm shut the fucking gym for 20 minutes. I mean, if I could go back in time, that's what I'd be doing. But we wouldn't be out partying doing it. We'd be going to the fucking gym, working out, and then going out to eat.
But correct me if I'm wrong. When I go to gyms today, and of course you do have some old hardcore guys, you know, that are working hard, like Robbie Robinson. What is he?
Yeah, Robbie.
What is he, 85, 90?
No, Robbie's in his 70s, late.
Yeah, but he's training like
he's up there.
He's consistent.
He's super clean.
Yeah.
He didn't eat carbs. Did you know on his birthday, he put a candle in an orange? That's him going off, just having an orange. He's really like green vegetables, protein. That's all he eats.
Guys, he's 79.
Yeah, when you go into the gym, for the most part, you see a lot of the younger people, and they're all in great shape. A lot of them. There's a lot of them in great shape. But the training they're doing is not dictating that shape. So are they all on drugs?
Well, here's the thing is, today, even just social media people that haven't even walked on a stage are taking all kinds of these cocktails of peptides. They're also doing the TRT, the growth, IGF, LR3, IGF,
hormones,
all the things that kind of, make them look hard and ripped and whatever. But they're not thinking about the future, because when you're pumping these drugs into your body at a very young age, now when you stop, it could cause severe depression. That's like when COVID happened. Look how many bodybuilders were committing suicide every week.
Yeah.
Because that's their whole life or something, right? But also when they go off the cycle, you go into severe depression. That's the drawback on some of these drugs, that you take excessive amounts for a long period.
Now, is that depression a psychological thing?
Yeah.
You look in the mirror, or is it a chemical imbalance thing? Or is it a combination of both?
It's a combination of both, because first of all, it's a chemical, because when you're depressed, that's depression. But also, when you're looking in the mirror and you don't have that perfect six-pack, and you're starting to develop man boobs, and you're looking fat and bloated, psychologically, along with the depression hormones, that's when it becomes sometimes deadly combination. So you got to realize that a lot of these people are taking drugs that have been maybe purchased online, illegally, or in Mexico. They don't know how to properly trade it. When I say properly trade, take is with a doctor's supervision. And if you just take it and then you just stop, then you're going to see horrible side effects from withdrawal. There's a very famous bodybuilder, Larry Scott. Larry Scott was the very first Mr. Olympia.
Yeah.
Larry it was actually funny. They went to I think it was Corpus Crew on Sunset, where the old car dealership was over there, where the Soho House is now. And so it was Larry Scott and Joe Weir. And he said, Larry, we need something that's much bigger than the Mr. World and Mr. Universe, the ultimate bodybuilding title. So he goes, and I want you to compete in this, because you won everything, And so they ordered their steaks and they ordered beer. And right there, Joe's looking at the beer as Larry's drinking it, and it was Olympia beer. So then Joe goes, hey, why don't you call it Mr. Olympia? I love it, Joe. So sure enough, Larry competed in it and won, and then he went the following year, he competed in it again and decided enough, right? But that's how the Mr. Olympia came about. It was Joe Weir and Larry Scott, who was Mr. America, Mr. Universe. We need something that's the ultimate title. So Joe considered the Mr. Olympia as his baby, So whenever it came down to the decision of the winner, they all say, Joe, this is who. Well, then Joe would decide whether that they switch him or not. That's just how it was. He was not politics.
Yeah.
Now, Robbie was a dear friend. And Robbie, I talked to Joe.
Robbie
Robinson. Okay. So Joe loved Rob. But he said, black bodybuilders don't sell magazines. You can't put them on a cup. And Robbie knew at the time that's just the way it was. So that was the problem with the black bodybuilders. You would never see them on a cup. It was either some ripped up guy with some chick, some blonde chick, right? And because that's how you sell the magazines. People, impulse buyers are not going to buy just to see some guy on there. So he's had to put a girl with a guy who killed everybody. But they wouldn't really give black bodybuilders the justice in the publication. Later on, Jews started realizing that things were changing, and then they started putting black bodybuilders on covers. But it was very prejudiced in those days, unfortunately. But Robbie had an incredible physique. Robbie Robinson had a magnificent, and he still does. Narrow waist, just muscle belly was really full in shape, and his striations. He just always came in, but unfortunately, there were bodybuilders that were better as time went on. So he went to a certain point, but he never could win that, Mr. Olympia title. He just didn't, unfortunately. But I would say the sport in those days when I trained, he competed, was one of his at its best.
Is there anyone that you think that, given, I mean, you can go any era, is there anyone that you think absolutely deserved a title as far as Olympia wise that didn't get it?
Well, there are a few. I really felt Flex deserved Olympia.
For sure.
Kevin LaRone.
For sure.
And I would say Sean Ray.
And those guys were all competing at the same time, so it's like it's so hard to pick and choose when they all were so fucking good.
There were a few other bodybuilders. I forget what his name was. He was this incredible bodybuilder. He went against, I think he was Dorian Yates. I forget his name. He had the most incredible physique, sliced and diced, incredible symmetry, and it was blatant. They booed during what he wanted.
You know who I really feel was great was Lee Priest. I think
Lee Priest. Listen,
great.
Lee Priest, but the problem was he's really, really, really short.
Yeah,
and he didn't have the same stature.
Right.
But you look at his physique.
Yeah, you take him by himself, and it's like, whoa.
And his father was a pro bodybuilder.
But you had a lot of guys who were really short, were really good. I mean, Lee Labrado, isn't he short too?
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, but Lee
got that mass monster kind of.
Yeah, he did. But I think he started trying to get too big. He looks like Lee's son. Looks way too big. Yeah. He doesn't have the beautiful eyes like his dad. He got caught up into getting more size. But I think there are other bodybuilders that try to get to a point where they'd be so big, then they started losing the narrow waist, the hips got wider. They sacrificed it. If they just went as far as they could, just work on more season, more density, they probably would have gone higher. But then they wanted to go, no, I need to get there.
But then again, there is a genetic component to that. I mean, structurally, some people just, like Vex Wheeler had a tiny waist. Structurally, I mean, some people just have a bigger waist. So how do you go about that?
Yeah, but you got to realize that if you're going to take growth hormone, you're going to stimulate the growth of the internal organs, and you're going to push it out. So it would be an advisement if someone has a very narrow waist, to even delve in that world. Just focus on more hard training, proper nutrition, get plenty of rest, and if you want to do peptides or other things. But when you start delving into growth hormone, people don't realize how dangerous it is because. Say, for instance, in your family, you're genetically disposed for cancer. Yeah. And you can have a cancer cell that's dormant. When you take growth hormone, you can wake up the cancer cell. So now you have a chance of stimulating the cancer growth cell that you would never have woke up. So, you got to figure out, what am I doing? That's why I'm really against children taking steroids or anybody taking steroids because there's too many alternatives now. With stem cell and exomes and peptides, you can do things for your body.
Peptides have done some amazing things.
You don't need it. If you want to have some enhancement, great. But when you start altering your hormones, which that's what happens when you do the testosterone and the other crap, it shuts your system down. Now you'll be dependent on testosterone the rest of your life. If you're not taking testosterone, you'll have no sex drive. You won't have any muscle mass. You'll have more fat on your body because your body fat's so low. And if your testosterone goes too low, then it makes your bones frail. Your bone density decreases. Just how the testosterone level is lower. So people have to realize that these bodybuilders today that are so obsessed with size, mass and mass. If you say to them, hey, if you could win that Mr. America or Mr. Universe, whatever time it is, you drop the next day, would you do it?
It's still probably good.
They'll probably say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why you're seeing it every time I go on Generation Iron, it'll pop up on my feed at Generation Iron on Facebook or whatever, Instagram. I swear, every time that pops up on my feed, it's about another bodybuilder dying in their 30s.
Yeah.
Every single time.
It's terrible, and it's like, and it's most of it they die from a heart attack.
Yeah, we haven't even touched base on diuretics. The diuretics that they take are just
Paul Dillette almost died on stage from taking too many diuretics.
Didn't he collapse a few times?
Yeah.
Oh, on stage, yeah. But it was really bad. But again, when it's just like with the liquid protein. If you're not having the electrolytes and the minerals you need, you can cause it hard to,
clench.
It tightens up, locks up, and you have that stroke, right? Because you're not getting the fluid into the organs and the different body parts of your body. So when you do anything restrictive where you're restricting the water and taking a diuretic, that's a deadly cocktail. Yeah. But the problem is usually the bodybuilder was not on track. So they use excessive diuretics. Paul Dillette was holding a little too much water. And he didn't taper off from what he was doing, and his diet was a little bit off, but he was a mass monster. So he ended up doubling or tripling the diuretic, and that's where he almost
He's lucky he didn't die.
Yeah, he's lucky. I mean, he just collapsed.
Yeah.
So today, the sport of bodybuilding has like a black eye. Like, look at Craig Titus. What he did with Kelly. Okay, he ended up.
And the documentary was crazy.
So this is a crazy story. So Kelly won the Miss Fitness America. And I was at the show. And she was married to a preacher. And I was working for Inside Edition, interviewing Queen Latifah and all the winners, and I was up on stage with her. And so after she won, I did an interview in the back. We started talking. And I said, hey, what do you invite to eat? And we went to get a bite to eat, and we kind of struck this friendship. And I said, so what's going on in your world? She said, well, I'm married to this guy. He doesn't care about me. He's a preacher. He's into his, the church. And that's great for him. But I feel neglected. I need something without me. So we just became like friends. And then eventually he calls me up and says, hey, I'm going to leave him. And I said, well, if that's what you want to do, And we just kind of stayed in touch, and that was it. So like a year later comes, I get a phone call. And Kelly, and she goes, hey, Mike, guess where I'm at? And I go, I don't know, where are you? And she goes, I'm at LAX. I go, LAX? Oh, great. She goes, can I come over? I go, well, actually seeing someone? And, well, that's okay. I just want to see her. I go, no, it's kind of living with me, right?
Yeah.
And then we're getting along. So she goes, well, can I see you? I go, okay. I said, listen, I know this place on Lincoln. It's a really clean motel. I'll come pick you up and I'll take you to the motel so they checked in. And then this way, maybe get some workouts to go. It's kind of keep it cool, because she was a beautiful girl, amazing body. And I felt bad. She just left her husband, right? So we go get a bite to eat after check her in. And we're at the firehouse. And we're sitting, and you first come in, the table right there, before you go to the side here. And we're sitting there. She goes, Michael, I feel so comfortable staying in a motel when it's on Lincoln Boulevard. And I go, listen, I can't do anything. I'm just seeing this girl. Yeah, I don't know, she might be the one, right? I said, I can't. I'm sorry, Kelly. You just can't come and just show up.
Yeah.
She goes, oh, I thought we had something special. I said, listen, it was special at the time, but it was just like this chemistry. Who knows, right? So Craig Titus comes in. I go, Craig, get over. Because I know he had it in an apartment down the block. I said, Craig, this young lady is a very dear friend of mine. She has the most magnificent physique. She won Miss Fitness America last year. But do you know anybody that has like a room to rent? Right? He goes, dude, I got plenty of room. So I was the one that introduced Craig Titus to Kelly.
Wow, okay.
Right? And it's so funny. And then months later, I was working out with a friend who came in, in the firehouse. I see Kelly looking really low. Eyes were really glossy. And and Craig too. They sit down like we were there, and Craig goes into the bathroom and has like this little shaving kit, and then Miss Lady comes out, and then Kelly, and he hands Kelly his kit. And I see her going over, so I knew something wasn't cool. So I knock on the door. Kelly, it's Mike. Open up. Mike, have your eyes in the open the door. Open the door. She's shooting up Nubane. Nubane is one of the most powerful, like, I mean, painkillers you've had. I mean, they use it before surgery, right? Well, all the pro bodybuilders and wrestlers use Nubane, and they become very addicted to it. So apparently, I looked at her and said, "What are you doing?" She said, "Oh, Craig was having problems with his back, and when you take this, and I had a problem with my knee, and it was really killing me." And I said, "But you're pumping in drugs like that because you're numb, and you could end up further damaging you, and you don't even know." And I said, "You look so high. What are you guys doing?" She says, "Oh, I know. I gotta stop. I gotta stop." And of course it didn't stop. And then sure enough, then they relocated to Vegas, and then they were doing the after Mr. Olympia parties. And then I went up to Olympia up there, and they invited me to this club party. And they were then having like these sex parties at their house. And I said, "Kelly, how did you go from being married to the preacher to doing this crazy shit?" I just love him.
Talk about a 180, man.
180. And so I was like, wow. And then, of course, later on, when it all went down and, they killed the assistant, um, it got me pretty bad because I was the one who introduced them. But she chose that path.
Yeah.
But that was one of the reasons that, like, why I went into sports, no longer bodybuilding, because it all started seeing all the bad press about the drugs. FBI started really clamping down on people selling steroids. Did you know in Gold's Gym, everywhere in Gold's Gym, they have microphones and cameras. Gold's had, they said, "Listen, if you don't do this, we're going to bust bodybuilders here. And then you're going to get all the bad press." So to this day, FBI has cameras everywhere in Gold's Venice. Everywhere. Outside, inside, and they're eavesdropping in conversations. And they bust so many bodybuilders. There's a lot of known trainers in there that are now informants in the gym. There's trainers in Gold's Gym right now that are for informants for the DEA and FBI in Gold's Gym. Because they know the Europeans are coming in, they try to solicit selling drugs and body. And then they know the trainers in there, not Gold's Gym employees, but trainers in are their sales team. So that's the kind of shit that unfortunately had happened for a long period of time. But the FBI still looks for it, but not as aggressive because they're dealing with fentanyl and all this other shit. But for a while, they really came down on every single body where they would watch that and wait till they go to the car, the trunk, whatever, and then they, you know.
Did you ever see the Bigger, Faster, Stronger documentary?
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you think about that documentary?
Well, Chris is a great guy. I mean, it was a good documentary. It was at the time very shocking.
Because like what you were saying reminds me of that.
He was an employee at Gold's Gym for the longest time.
Yeah.
Employee or a trainer or both.
Yeah, I did both.
I used to see him there.
I don't see him anymore. I know his brother's doing well with all those gadgets he's doing. But
what's an interesting story?
Mark,
I haven't seen him for years. And then we're shooting Kickboxer Retaliation in Thailand in 2016. And who was on the set?
You shouldn't be.
Yeah. Chris Bell, right? That's the name.
Yes, Chris.
And he was a nice guy, and he lost a lot of weight. He had trimmed down, and then I haven't seen him since. But for many years, I saw him at Gold's.
Yeah,
I remember watching that documentary when I was in high school, and I'm just like, dude, this is phenomenal.
Doesn't his brother get that support for the
yeah. And then his brother committed suicide.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that was really sad, man. It was eye-opening.
But it's like
they're good people, though.
Yeah.
Like Christian Beauvais, like in the movie, he talked about steroids and all that. Right?
Who was it?
Christian Beauvais.
Oh, Christian Beauvais.
That's when he lost his contract.
Yeah.
When he got to doing that move.
Oh, they actually pulled his contract?
Yeah.
God damn.
Yeah, you have to be very careful when you in public and talking about, especially anything that's to do with drugs.
Yeah.
But it was a really, at the time, a really relevant documentary.
Yeah.
It did quite well.
Oh, it's about 10 years now, more.
Oh, it's been more. It was like 2008,
Oh, yeah.
I think, was when it came out.
Was it that
2007,
long ago?
2008.
Yeah, probably early
Yeah.
2000s.
I remember what blew my mind about that documentary is when they were showing Greg. What's the big guy? Greg. You know, what I'm talking about the guy that had the arm that got.
Oh,
messed
yes,
up.
yes,
Greg,
yes.
is it Valentino?
Oh, yeah.
Remember, he was talking about Arnold, and I see them taking Arnold's poster down, which is back up now.
Yeah.
But I remember watching that, going, "What the? Why are they taking Arnold's poster?"
So great. So funny. I was managing a Nautilus Fitness Center in Yorktown, and Greg Valentino came walking in. It was like we closed at 10. He'd come in at 9 because he worked late. And the kid always had like big triceps, decent biceps, just kind of a stocky guy. And we would train, and sometimes I'd keep the gym open, you know.
You're talking about Valentino.
And before he'd come work out his pre-workout, was eating Twinkies.
Oh shit!
And coffee, right? The sugar. And he was just a bulky guy, right? But then, as he ended up opening his gym later and getting into sport bodybuilding, but never really competed. He really got into those injectables to be able to have the biggest arms, and it got to the point where it was sickening.
It was synthol, correct?
Yeah, it was all synthol, and so he ended up getting an infection.
Yeah.
It was really bad. It was really gross. And then, of course, he got busted and had to do time for selling steroids.
Because I remember him talking recently. I can't remember where I saw it, but I thought they said in the documentary that it was synthol, but he had talked about how it was actually him just injecting into the local sites. He was injecting, test into the local sites, from what I remember.
No, but he didn't. No, he was doing the water-based testosterone.
Okay.
But then he also was putting the synthol.
Okay.
You can see the distortion.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell.
Yeah.
I mean,
Isn't that when he busted open or
and
something?
he popped it open like a cyst.
Yes.
And he got infected. But, he's a really colorful character, charismatic and funny.
Yeah.
He's really did his time. He's been a really good guy. He does a lot of podcasts and fun stuff. He's just a colorful character.
I love listening to him.
He's a character. He's got his way he talks. He's funny. Yeah. So, but it's okay,
Yeah.
But that was Greg. But it was so funny. That's what he was like when I first met him. And I still see him once in a while. We send a message to each other,
Yeah.
But I kind of remember all these guys coming up when I was in the sport. And he was always a big fan of mine. He always was at my shows, like, "Hey, Mike," right? But the sport has really changed and it's disappointing. It's become a chemical warfare. That's all it's down. Who's taking?
There was a company one time called, wasn't it, Chemical Warfare?
I think there was.
In Ireland it was. But anyway, Mike, back about you. So, when did you get involved? You've worked with a lot of actors. You've trained a lot of actors, like Matt Damon for the first Bourne and before. How did that come about?
It was so funny. When I came out here in California, I was training at Angel Bonds Gold's Gym on Laurel Canyon. And one day I came in and I go to the front desk and the guy Rico at the desk says, "Hey, Mike, someone needs a trainer. He's an actor and him and his wife need a trainer." I go, "Hey, I'm available." I was doing nothing, right? So he goes, "Yeah, I got the greatest trainer here." And he goes, "Okay, here's my address. Have him come tomorrow morning, even at 6 a.m.
And you didn't know who it was at the time?
No. And it was John Tesh at Conceal.
Oh, wow.
And so I started training John kind of 3 times a week. And then it was so funny. John goes, "Hey, Robin Leach wants us to come on Lifestyles of Rich Famous." Right? And this is after I really got them in really great shape about a year later. And he said, "Man, we want you in the show." So that's so funny. When we were shooting the interview, that's when I met downtown Julie Brown. She was the host, right?
Yeah.
And she goes, "Listen, I'm going to give you a big tip. Your name, Torchia, okay? People are going to make mistakes pronouncing it. So I hear I crown you Mike Torchia, like Porsche. So that's why I say Mike Torchia, because this way, when someone interviews you, because you're going to be interviewed a lot, and know you're destined for Faves. He goes, "You're so funny with that accent," and so that's where I go my Torchia instead of Torch.
Gotcha.
Because in Italian, he just pronounced K, Torch. So I ended up being on the Lifestyles of Rich Faves. What was funny was when I first came to California, the girl I was dating was very wealthy. Her parents hated that it was just a gym bro, training people in the gym. Didn't have a lot of money. Came from a very poor family. So the father said, how want you to be with this guy? He can't provide like I provide for you, what you used to. So we were watching Lifestyles of Rich Face with Rob Leach. And James Coburn had his trainer driving a Candy Apple Red Fiat Spider 2000, Camel interior. He had his own penthouse in the harbor in Marina Del Rey. And I turned to my girl, I go, you know what? I'm going to go to California. And I'm going to be a famous celebrity trainer. I'm going to come back and get you when you come back, right? And now, think about it. I was on the lifestyle of Rich and Famous, or Robin Leach, big interview. I'm like the trainer in Hollywood. And that was like maybe 5 years prior. And the reason I came out here was to do that. I didn't end up doing it.
Yeah.
See what you kind of map it in your brain. So I was kind of laughing.
Law of attraction.
Of course, I did go back and she gained like 50 pounds. And the guy left California. And it wasn't the same anymore. But she got married and, she's happy and all that. But it was so funny that Flashback was what we were watching before I left to come to California.
Sometimes that's what it is, man. That was a sign telling you, let's get it going.
But it's so funny. I told get up and go, that's what I'll do.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll look at his body. I look better than him. I'm a better trainer than him. Right?
Yeah.
But what's so funny? You come out here and it's hysterical. So James Coburn, it was a great guy in like Flint and all those movies. He was the one that turned Bruce Lee onto those pot brownies.
Really?
Yeah, he didn't know the whole recipe and everything. He chef do it, and that's where Bruce Lee was always having those brownies made.
Gotcha.
So when he would do all this vigorous training, this would help bring him down to be sick. So I was learning all these little things that was going on in the world of bodybuilding and acting and everything. But then I started meeting all these other actors, and I worked, Matt Damon, of course, Matt Damon was for that Bourne Identity. But then, I worked with Sinbad, I worked with Roseanne Barr, I traveled the world with Keith Urban and worked with Nicole Kidman. So I worked with all these wonderful actors, Joe Mantegna from Criminal Minds and just all these really cool Stevie Van Sant from Sopranos, I was just getting calls from everybody, hey, I need you to get me in shape for this. I even I had to turn down so many actors. Christian Bale, after he did The Machinist, he wanted to put on weight for Batman. I was just too booked. Yeah. And then Lawrence Fishburne, but from Matrix, I was working with so many actors, And then I had Kevin Spacey from American Beauty, and I was working with Joe Schumacher. So I was working with all these people.
So that's where the famous dumbbell scene in American Beauty comes from. There you go.
Yeah, it was so funny. It's like, so Scott, what he did was the director had me read the script. He goes, you're going to have to get Kevin because he's a middle-aged guy going through this midlife crisis, and you have to show him morph into this incredible physique. So we did his body fat. It was like 28.3. And I was like, okay, so I was tracking it. So I had to get him as he was morphing into this muscular guy. I had to track his food, making sure he was coming down, looking just right. And I remember we had this one scene where that was the scene where he was pumping up.
Yeah.
And he looked so good, really, really tight. And then like 3 weeks later, he called me up, Sam Mendes goes, like, you need him to get a little heavier because there's a scene in the beginning where he was a bit softer. He looks too muscular and we have to reshoot it. He said, is there any way you can pull this off in the weekend? I said, hell yeah. So what I do is I take him to sushi, I take him to a Mexican restaurant, and I take him to an Italian restaurant Friday, Saturday, Sunday, with all the carbs and the sodium and the food. And then we come on the stage on the set on Monday. He goes, thing. So I just bloated it.
Is that the only time someone's ever asked you to get somebody out of shape?
Go in reverse.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when I trained, it was like when Jack Scalia did Casualties of Love, the George Bonifruco story. That was a funny one. So John Hirschfeld, who I didn't know at the time, writer director, right? A friend of mine tells me, he goes, listen, there's this movie called Casualties of Love. And there you have this actor, Jack Scalia. From what I hear, he needs to put on 30 pounds to look like Joey Bonifruco. So I go, okay. So I said, in front of me, hey, you're an actor. How do you get on the set? This one, you go there and you say you have slides and you're reading for some movie, whatever. He said, okay. I said, well, how about I do this? I had at the time I had like a Ford, SUV Explorer. So I go, hey, would this work? What if I put a cap on and I say that I have a FedEx package for this tractor for Casualties Live? Can you think it was at Warner Brothers? He goes, probably work. So I had a tight shirt on, and a Levi shirt over it, a cap. And I go to the gate. I said, I have a FedEx for Mr. John Hirschfeld. I have to trust him to Levittown. He goes, yeah, go down. Where can I park? Oh, yeah, you can park it. You can just drop it off. Yeah. Okay. So now I take the cap off, take the shirt off, have a tight T-shirt in. I'm looking buff. So I said, I have package for Mr. Hirschfeld. And she goes, oh, I'll take it. I said, no. I was told I have to personally give it to you. She goes, oh, okay. And she walks in, and there's Alyssa Milano, Jack Scalia, and Johnson and Desk. And she goes, Mr. Herschel, there's a gentleman here. He has a package. It's important that he gives it to you directly. She goes, yeah, I got something. So I walk in, like, really. I go, hi, Mr. Herschel. My name's Mike Torchia. I'm the most incredible trainer. And Mr. Scalia, I can put on the muscle you need. And he goes, Mr. Chinese, fuck, this guy was good. He goes, I need arms like that. He goes, you know the trainer I got, John? He keeps making me ice cream and cookies and pizza. And he goes, I keep farting up a storm. He goes, and so John goes, you can put on 30 pounds. I put more than 30 pounds on. He goes, you're hired. So now I started training Jack Scalia. I had goals. And it was so fun. I kind of set him straight in the beginning. So he had, I had him get a towel at the desk and he got a bottle of water. And he's then like going from machine to machine. And then he kept handing me the water. And so at the end of the work, I go, John, let me tell you something. You did it today? Don't I give you the water, the towel? I'm not a towel boy. He goes, oh, okay, right. So I kind of set him straight, right? Because you have to. So then, as weeks go by, we're filming the movie. John goes, Mike, we got Joey Bonifruco coming with this guy who's apparently a connected guy in New York. He's big time. He said, so you and Jack need the trio, and they let Jack come out first, and then hopefully Jack introduce you to him. Yeah, just meet him. Sure. So I didn't tell him that I knew Joey very well. Because I used to go to the strip club in New York and used to be there, and he knew I knew of girls, and we were having little parties on the Scheerer program, right? So I knew him for a long time, but they didn't know it. So Jeff was, hey, don't focus on how he was guy. He's supposed to be this big time guy. I don't know, Casey Village fan. I said, oh, really? And he said, I'm gonna come out, then I'll come out 5 minutes later, and then I'll introduce himself. Really, I really appreciate that, Jack. And so Jack's talking to him. It's like, this is before we knew he was the bad guy. This was the CBS movie before we knew he was the one that did all the time.
Yeah.
So I come out of the trailer and I'm walking over, and Jack goes to introduce me. Joey goes, Mikey boy. And then the other guy, Nicky's like, hey, Nicky. And he's kissing me on the cheek and hugging me. And Jack, ever since that day, treated me like royalty. Because he was like, well, so he goes, so you know Mike? He goes, oh, Mike. Hey, Mike, what about the time we had those girls and we took my bone out? And Jack, you should have seen his face. It turned blank. And then Hirschfeld was hysterical. So he gave me a role in the movie. That's how I got my sidecar.
Wow.
Because he said he wanted to show appreciation, right?
Yeah.
And so I said, Joey, but where's my lines? He goes, Never mind. I'll tell you what. This is what you're going to do. The phone's going to ring, and you're going to be carrying a clipboard because I had like overalls on. I had to like, not shaved for like 3 weeks, look kind of scruffy. And you're going to go into the phone. You go, say the name of the garage and say, okay, hold up. Hey, Joey, phone. That was my line. So now there was Alyssa Milano and Jack Scalia and all these other actors that were in it, right? And they're all sitting around. So I walk in there and I answer the phone. And they go, hold on. Hey, Joey, phone. And then cut. They all stood up and applauded me. Mike broke his cherry. No, right. And that's John's gift to me was my SAG card, right? Awesome. But that was my scene. Hey, Joey, phone. I thought I was going to have lines. Lines. This is what you're going to say.
That's what you're going to say. Well, it got you your SAG card.
Oh, you know my SAG card.
Yeah.
So that's how I evolved. But I did it only as a goof. But then I started doing commercials and making money. That's how I survived out here. Because this way I didn't want to bounce in nightclubs. So I was going out on auditions with Rich Valenti, and we announced these commercials, and I was making good money, right?
Yeah.
But that did help me. And that was so funny. Fast track, I don't compete anymore. And now I'm producing and acting in films.
Yeah.
All because from my podcast. But my major in college was film communications. So I kind of went back to what I originally prepared.
Yeah. So talk about currently you've been acting quite a bit.
Yeah, well, it's so funny.
Tell us what you can.
So I got that hat, that fedora hat, like Sly hat and Rocky, So I was kind of wearing that for a while, and my New York accent, the way I'm talking. So I get a guest that came on my show, and they said, "Listen, we're doing this series, and it's about the mob, and you would be great to play the mob boss from New York." And they said, "Are you in the union?" And I go, "Yeah, I have been keeping my dues up, Well, hell, it just slides or whatever. So it's called Bloodhound. It's based on the largest art heist in the world. $350 million worth of art was stolen from a museum. These guys put on uniforms like they're cops and said the alarm's going off. We have to come in and inspect. And like suckers, they open up the door and then they tie them up and gag them and then rob them of art. Apparently, it was Whitey Bulger's gang in the mob from New York that partnered up in this big theft in Boston, right? So the director got all the FBI files from the original investigator and wrote a series about it, how it came together. So we're kind of reenacting it. So I play the mob boss from New York. And we got a really great cast, and it's fun. And all I do is, but so funny about this is, she gave me the lines. I'm the boss. We're at a card game. My crew's all around me, and I'm supposed to say a comment to them. I go, Michelle, can I just mention something, please? My boss would never talk to his crew like that. They're like beneath him. My was beneath them. Whenever just changes around, guys, you okay if I change it around? So of course I changed it around. And there's a scene where there's this actor Orlando Jones, he's hysterical. And I have to like get in his face. And I really went off. And when the guy, one of my crew guys says, "Hey, when are we gonna eat? I'm hungry." So, I was supposed to say this, relax. We go, "Listen, shut the fuck up. All you care about is eating. Sit down, fat ass. And you." And then I went off like this right in his fucking face. And then he reacted like shit. Cut. Right? Orlando goes, "Fuck, you look scary, man. Dude, you're gonna fucking rip my head off." But I said, "Well, but this is the scene. I gotta intimidate you. The way it looks here, it's gonna look like I'm a fucking pussy."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So what happened was they started allowing me to have the lines and rewrite.
That's awesome.
Now, when I used to read with Al Pacino when I was training him, we'd read in the trailer, right? I would do that with Joe McCain. So they'd say, "Hey, Al, it's not what's on the page." He goes, "Well, Mike, I'm owning it. I'm becoming the character. My interpretation is how I would say it being that character." So I said, "Oh, you don't always have to say it the way." He goes, "No, you can own it." So I was using the same thing I learned from my clients. So whenever we do like this Bodyman movie that I'm doing, the action film, I rewrote all my lines. but it came out so great. And there was one take, and then we just did the pickups. But I became that character, and you know, and I became the character. So I was taking pride that I would do one take, and also from working with Francis Fisher, I learned one thing about Clint Eastwood: one take, and most of the time he'll have the camera rolling when you do a rehearsal, because usually the rehearsal is better than the first take, right? So I learned to nail it, become the character. So when I had the scene with John Sheck, great actor, by the way, great guy, I'm right in his face, and I did the same thing where I'm really in his face, and I'm staring him down, the veins popping out. After done, John goes, "Fuck!" But I become the character.
What is this series called?
Well, the series is called Bloodhound. We're shooting 3 more episodes, but the movie I just finished 2 weeks ago was called Body.
Okay.
We got David Shokichi in it, John Schreck, Tom Arnold, Sean Kanan, Kay Monroe is the female lead. And it's basically about a woman who's running for Senate. Sean Kanan plays the senator that's corrupted and with the cartel. I ended up calling my buddy Emilio Rivera, who was on My Sons of Anarchy, to play the drug lord. And then Frankie Loyal, who was also on my buddy, I had to play the corrupt federal.
Nice.
So it came out that I had all my friends in the movie. So I played the bodyguard to the main female lead. So I'm in the whole movie with them,
Nice.
right? And so they were going to kill me off. I go, Michelle, just have fun here. I don't want to die. I said, I get a better idea. I said, I know Emilio's character, Ortega, is supposed to poison me and kill me. They're God. But how about this? How about he poisons me after the scene at the talk show with Tom Arnold, communicate. Somebody gives me water, and then I get violently ill to send a message to him that if we can get to your bodyguard, we can get to you. This way, it's better, because if they just kill me, it looks too violent too soon. They just want a gentle message. Don't fuck with us, because you can be nice. And I like that. So I said, great. So let's have this scene. And then we talked about it. I said, can I have your delivery? She goes, yeah, yeah. So I'm driving over to the set, and it's like in Pomona. It's like an hour away. And it was an early call, and there was an accident. And I'm sitting there, and it was like, it was really late. So then the AD was calling, what's going on? I'm like, how long will it be? How long will it be? I'll be there in a minute. So I get there. Everything's all ready to go. They're all waiting for me. I felt bad. So they said, take your clothes off. So I ripped my clothes off, kept my underwear on. And I put the thing that the patient there, right? And they stick the IV over here. And now I'm like, because my adrenaline's pumping, and I don't express it before I came down here. I go, okay. But what I did in the car, I kept screaming at the top of my lungs.
Got yourself in character.
To get my throat scratchy. So when I got into bed, even though I was like a fish out of water at first, and then, roll camera and action. And then she comes over, she puts her hand on my chest, and she's praying. And I act like, I just wake up and I see the lights are, and she be talking back. And then she says, this is not right. I'm going to make this right. Don't do it. Don't do anything crazy. I know you. I was really, like, the whole scene was so cool. She goes, great. Okay, let's get the pickups. I was like, that's it. She goes, Mike, your voice is perfect. Of course. I go, yeah. I kept screaming as hard as I can in the car down here.
Yeah.
To do it, but it came out great.
It worked. Yeah.
And it was so funny. I'm like this. So now I post on social media pictures of me in the bed like this, and with the intravenous in me. My whole family's calling me up. What'd you do now? What happened? Oh, did you get hurt on your motorcycle? I go, what are you talking about? We saw you in the hospital. You look really sickly. I go, what? I go, no, it's a movie. Did you read? It's a movie. I said, this is the scene of the movie. No, I'm serious. All these people said, Mike, what happened? That's what about social media. People see a picture and they don't read it, right?
Yeah.
So I decided I'm not going to longer put any more pictures of me where I look like I'm in a hospital, because people don't read what you write. They just glance at the picture and say either like or they comment, right? But they don't really read what you write.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if
to give something out of context.
yeah, so the funny is I took the same tenacity, determination when I would train for a show. Now put it into producing and the acting. because every movie I do, I produce. Every movie I produce, I ask for a role. I got a film that I'm doing in New Jersey in March with Sam Jackson and Anthony Hopkins, and I play one of the lead characters where I play this really badass cop, like, prick, right? So I put myself in there. So I got a couple of movies where I'm going through this going, that's me. But I can do it because my movie.
So that's the next, your
Well,
next
that
thing.
next thing is produce. Well, you know who turned me on to this? I used to have lunch with uh, Stanley and his wife and his daughter Jason. So Stan said, Mike, you look great on camera. He said, you should do like I do, just with like these cameo appearances, because he knew I was getting into producing films. So I got the idea from Stan because I watch him in a movie, then you see a bus driver pop up, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't need to get deep into this acting because James talks about it all the time. I'm saying, I love James. Boy, he's really into his acting. I didn't understand it, so I never did it, right? And then when I did it, I go, now I get it.
Yeah, because I can tell you're having fun with it for sure.
Well, you know what?
And that's most important in life, is having fun.
Every time I'm on the set, I have the same crew, right? We use the same crew. I love these guys.
Yeah.
It's family. We actually have fun.
Yeah.
We hang out. We just have pictures together. We just talk about life. Like David Choke, he's a dynamite guy, man. And he plays one of the badass ex-military guys who helped save him when she's kidnapped. He's so cool. And John Strack, all the guys. And just everybody in my staff is fun to work with. So to me, it sounds like a bunch of friends having fun.
Right.
It's like school, when you just fucking hanging out.
Yeah.
So to me, making the movie, it's not like I gotta memorize his lines. I go, well, I get the character, I know what to do. And I just show up without stressing, oh, I can remember that line. I go there, hey, I'm having fun. It's like when I go to the gym, I'm excited to be in the gym. Like when James and I used to train, I couldn't wait to see him go, yeah, let's go, bro, let's go.
Yeah,
right?
I would go.
And tell you something, everybody's looked at us a fool, right?
Yeah.
Really, we were picking up the vibe in the gym because you go to the Equinox of Baldwin, it's like a funeral home. Right? You see the same people in years. Not one person makes results. Seriously, and they're training with trainers.
Yeah.
And I would say I'd fire that motherfucker if I'm not getting results, right?
Of course.
But when we walk in there, you had to see everybody started training hard.
But it's not about the results. It's about the formula of making money.
Yeah.
It's not about the results because
Half the trainers look like they need a fucking
we
gun.
have to train more than that. A lot of trainers look like they need someone to train them.
Right.
Well, so especially some of these gyms, you go in there and the trainer looks like the client would be the client, and the client looks better than the trainer.
Right.
And then how can a person with a big waistband go, yeah, it's great exercise for a six pack?
And they're standing with their arms folded. Give me 10. Okay, now we'll go over here.
Well, it was so funny for years. There was a trainer. I don't know how she stayed there that much at Equinox. She was a rotund woman.
Oh yes.
It's like pop member. And I checked with management. I said, I don't understand it, but I mean, the girl looks like she's pregnant. She's been like this for like 2 years. He goes, yeah, well, yeah, we're gonna have to let her go because she was telling us that she was pregnant. That's how she got away with it, and she wasn't. I said, yeah, because I've been pregnant for 2 years, right? So they did let her go because it wasn't like she had to go extra weight. She was, remember?
Yeah.
Rotund.
Yes, I remember very well.
And then I remember one time on the mat, a woman's going, yeah, I really want to get my waist down. And she goes, this is the best exercise. But then she goes, but how come you have a stomach? Oh, well, she said it's a hormonal thing. This is the later. And I was like, really stretched out stomach with excessive amount of muffin top. It's not like a hormone thing. This is way more than that. And finally, I just said to myself, finally, someone confronts this woman. Because you know how you can't tell people, oh, you don't like the way you look. Listen, when you're in a gym in a physical conditioning job, you have to maintain at least a shapely physique. But how many times have we seen in gyms trainers that look really bad shape, no much development, and fat along the waist? I mean, you're young, you're in your 20s. There's no excuse. But apparently you have to be careful with when you're even in a gym about, being discriminative. But I just say if you're gonna work at a gym, you better be in shape because clients want to be inspired.
Yeah.
I can be inspired if someone's really good at what they do, but they look like shit. Yeah. And if you don't practice what you preach. When you come in and I see you teaching, I mean, James, your movement is perfect when you see Sarah. You're unbelievable. And your clients are awed by you because the look in your face and the way you demonstrate things and your physicality. It's so much more powerful. But if you were like looking at like some of these other martial arts and you're talking about that kind of paunchy and soft,
It's not going to work.
it's not going to look be as effective either. It's a visual.
Everything's turning into a corporate business type setting. That's a good and the bad. But one good thing about that is you're able to weed out the realism and weed out bullshit.
I just think that I wish more of the trainers would take a little more pride in themselves and take better care of themselves because when a client signs up for the first time and they admire your physique and your beautiful energy, it's so more effective, But apparently, a lot of the gyms today they just hire people, and apparently, uh, they don't do as well. And I used to manage gyms, and I know what from talking to clients. If me being in such great shape, I radiate so much energy. Well, someone doesn't feel good about themselves, they're not projecting incredible sexy energy. They're dull. So if you want to be effective, live the life, practice what you preach, and you'll have a prosperous career, Because I used to get all my jobs when I go out to places. People go, oh my God, you look great. Oh, my arms are great. Oh, can you train me? Right?
Yeah. I've gotten some clients where you throw a kick or something. She say, well, yeah, the way you threw that kick, blah blah blah. When you live it, you become it.
Yeah.
You can do it. So on leaving, what does the future hold for Mike Torchia?
Well, the podcast that I'm doing, Live Well and Thrive, is doing,
let's tell us about that. So let's tell the audience.
yeah, it's doing really well.
What's it called?
It's called Mike Torchia's Live Well and Thrive. It's on YouTube and Spotify and all the podcast platforms. I do promotions on it through social media on all the platforms, but a new interview is released every Monday, and then every day I release for 5 days a clip of the most exciting parts of the interview. And so right now I put together a presentation reel because we're bringing it to Netflix as a more of a celebrity lifestyle show because I have so many celebrities, and that seems to be what people want to hear about.
Yeah.
So it's going to be like Lifestyle Rich Famous meets Joe Rogan, where you're going to have solid, relevant interviews with really interesting people that might be biohacking experts, but we'll also have mostly features with celebrities on what they do in their everyday life, take care of them. What do they eat for breakfast? What do they do now for relaxation? Do you have a pet? If you do, is it a cat or dog? How do they come in your life? So people get to understand this person behind the scenes, what their life is like. We may go on the set of a movie or behind the scenes of a TV show, talk about how they prepare for the role. So that's sort of where the show is morphing into. So we're going to be taking it to Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, all the main platforms. 13 episodes. I got a list of like over 50 celebs that want to come on the show. But,
Nice.
and so that's where I'm taking that and building out on my site the story even bigger. And I'll be offering stem cell cream for the hair and the skin and some other peptides that I feel are beneficial, but they're also being compounded by top formulators. It's not the shit you see online and Facebook. So I'm coming out with some really cool products, and I'm in talks with this group right now. It's an $80 million mansion in Beverly Hills. And the owners approached me because they love my show and they know what I do. And they said, could you turn this house into a longevity institute? So I went over there the past week every day, walking through it. I went there with a interior designer and a contractor. So it looks like the deal's going to come through. And if so, It's going to be called the Superhuman Fitness Institute,
Nice.
my creation, and we're going to have the best of the best in there. So, and it have like incredible cafes. You're going to have hyperbaric, stem cell, red light, sound frequencies, peptides, all the stem cell excellence, all that. We're actually going to put octagon in there, some boxing equipment in there,
Nice.
along with badass training equipment, Pilates, of course, and a few other things that have modalities and have it. Then we also are building out a fat burning chamber where it's panels of red light and it pumps in oxygen. And we have one piece of cardio equipment. And you go there for 20 minutes between combination of red light and frequencies and the cardio is you'll shrink in inches after one session. So we're doing these really killer things. Then we also have a program for athletes, and I already spoke to several sports team owners about bringing their athletes that had consistent injuries to help them regenerate the damaged tissue. Because with red light, pulse, some of the other things, you can stimulate the mitochondria, regenerate tissue rapidly. And with hyperbaric, it helps heal the brain. So if you have any post-traumatic syndrome or any issues with your brain from concussion, within 40 hours of hyperbaric, you completely heal the brain. So we're going to do a lot of mental wellness with it too. So it looks like it's coming together. We're just waiting to see if we're going to get the approvals from Beverly Hills. But it looks like that's going to really happen.
That's very.
And then I'm going to actually do podcast at the mansion. It's an $80 million mansion, 3 blocks away from the Beverly Hills Hotel. I'll send you pictures. Breathtaking. And the family is totally into health and wellness. And they want to. We want this so badly. And they're one of the biggest distributors of stem cells and exomes. So I have the finest exomes and stem cells in the world, legal. So people don't have to go to Mexico and get it.
Yeah.
See, there's been approvals now. And if you have a manufacturing plant and a compounding pharmacy and you follow the guidelines, why would you want to go to Costa Rica or Mexico? Yeah. A chance contaminated exomes and stem cells. Doesn't make sense. And they also are the largest peptide manufacturers. So I have my own peptide formulas.
That's awesome.
Created by scientists and doctors and everything. So everything is going to be in one place.
Nice.
Well, good luck in your endeavors.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Mike.
Talk to you soon.
We'll have you on again soon.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was a blast, man.
Thank you.